Good day everyone, and welcome! We're so excited to have you join us for this amazing video presentation. Brought you by the Group 10. Presented by Miss Mitchie Gallemit, Miss Rhea Mae Dinigan, and Miss Jessa Mae L Zapatos. Together, we've worked hard to prepare something truly engaging, informative, and maybe even a little surprising. This is our amazing team, Miss Mitchie, Miss Rhea, and Miss Jessa. These are our beautiful and very confident women. In this few minutes, we'll be diving into 3 topics. First is our norm reference grading. Second is our 4 questions in grading. And lastly, Criterion-Referenced grading. Breaking it down into exciting, easy to follow insight that we promise will keep you curious and connected from start to finish. So buckle up, stay tuned, and get ready to discover something amazing because this topic is worth exploring. Now, let's begin.
Good day everyone! Today we're going to talk about norm reference grading. In norm reference grading, your grade is based on how well you do compared to everyone else in your class. It's like a ranking system. Your teacher uses a statistical curve to figure out how many students should get A's, B's, C's, and so on. This curve often looks like a bell, with most students scoring in the middle and fewer students scoring very high or very low. Let's say, for example, you're taking a test, and your teacher uses norm reference grading. Everyone takes a test, the scores are ranked, and the teacher uses a curve to decide what percentage of students should get each letter grade. Based on your score and where it falls on the curve, you'll get a letter grade. Even if you got 80% of the test, you might get B if most people did very well.
Continue our discussion this morning. Let's talk about the 4 questions in grading. So the purpose of using the 4 questions in grading is that typically aims to assess the understanding, the critical thinking, and the mastery of a subject in a structured way. So here's how each question serves its purpose. The first question is, should grades reflect absolute achievement level or achievements relative to others in the same class? So absolute achievement level, it is how to evaluate students if he has mastered the specific learning objectives or the standards. So the purpose of this is to measure the individual understanding and skills against predetermined criteria, while the relative achievement or norm reference grading, the grades based on achievements relative to others' rank of students in comparison to their peers. So the purpose of this is to distinguish the levels of performance within a group. So the second question is, should grades reflect achievement only or non-academic components such as attitude, speed, and diligence? So grades should reflect achievement only if the goal is to provide an objective, fair, and clear measure of a student's mastery of academic content. So this ensures that grades align with the learning outcomes and avoid ambiguity. So alternatively, grades can include non-academic components like attitude, speed, the diligence to promote holistic development. It also encourages effort and prepares students for real-world expectations where personal qualities matter. So a balanced approach, separating academic performance from the personal traits, might be the most effective, ensuring fairness from fostering both knowledge and character development. Right, so question number 3. Should the grade report status achieved or amount of groups? The grade report should reflect the status achieved rather than amount of work or groups completed. So this approach emphasizes the quality of learning and mastery of skills rather than just the quantity of effort or participation. It ensures that grades indicate that the students know and can do, aligning with academic goals and standards. Reporting only the amount of work done might reward effort without necessarily reflecting actual understanding or competency, which could lead to misleading evaluations. Question number 4 is, how can several grades on diverse skills combine to give a single mark? So several grades and diverse skills can combine into a single mark through weighted averaging. Each skill is graded separately, and weights are assigned based on the importance of each skill in the course. The grades are then multiplied by their weights, and results are summed to calculate the final mark. This approach ensures the final grade reflects a balanced evaluation of all relevant skills, which prioritizing most of the critical cases.
Thank you so much, Miss Rhea, for that wonderful information. Now, let's proceed to the Criterion-Referenced grading. The first word that comes into our mind is the word criteria, which is actually correct. Now, let's explore what is Criterion-Referenced grading. Criterion-Referenced grading measures a student's performance based on a specific set of skills. It measures what the students know and what the student does not know at the time of the assessment. The student's performance is not compared to other students' performance on the same assessment. Criterion-referenced grades are based on measuring a student against a level of performance, not measuring one student against another student. This means looking at how a student is performing today compared to how the student was performing the day before that. Criterion reference means setting a defined target for the students to hit, and then measuring their progress according to how close they come to hitting the target. Criterion targets provide quote-unquote stable and clear points for reference. In Criterion reference system, students are evaluated against an absolute scale. Like, for example, 95 to 100 is an equivalent for A, and 88 to 94 is an equivalent to B, and etc. Normally, the criteria are a set of numbers or points or a percentage of the total. Since the standard is absolute, it is possible that all students could get A's and or students could get B's. Now, let's proceed to the advantages of using Criterion reference grading. In Criterion reference grading system, students can help a fellow students in group work without necessarily worrying about lowering his or her grade in that specific course. An ideal system to use in a collaborative group work. Using the Criterion reference system for ongoing assessment throughout the academic year allows a comparison of how students' current skills mastery to his or her skill mastery at the previous points in that year. Because the skill sequences are broken down into gradual steps along the skills continuum, progress can be measured in a very small increments. And also, using Criterion reference grading contributes to the consistency and fairness in grading. Students are also not competing with each other, and thus more likely to actively help each other to learn. A student's grade is not influenced by the caliber of the class. Now, let's talk about the disadvantages of using Criterion reference grading. It is difficult to set reasonable criteria for the students without a fair amount of teaching experience. Most experienced faculty set these criteria based on their knowledge of how students usually perform, thus making it fairly similar to the norm reference system. That's a great fun fact. Also, practices may inhibit learning, not providing objectives or targets. Grading students against a norm reference curve. Using rubrics for scoring students' work. Lastly, grading comparing students to each other. Let's talk about the possible modifications. Effective best practices for criterion-referenced grading. Number 1. Using rubrics and clear targets. Number 2. Provide students with a learning objective or goals ahead of time. Number 3. Provide exemplars or anchor papers for students to view achievement levels. Number 4. And last, grade students against a mastery of the objectives. Instructors sometimes choose to maintain some flexibility in their criteria by telling the class in advance that the criteria may be lowered if it seems appropriate. For example, the 95% cutoff and an A may be lowered to 93. This way, if a first exam was more difficult for students than the instruction imagined, she or he can lower grading criteria rather than trying to compensate for the difficulty of the first exam with an easy second exam. Raising the criteria because too many students achieve A's, however, is never advisable. A group of teachers teaching the same subject must set the criterion together. That is it, and that's all a wrap. Thank you for listening, and see you soon. Now, this is your teacher, Miss Jessa Mae L Zapatos, signing off. Bye!